everyone, hello and welcome back to Sew What If I Sew. I'm Jess and this is my channel all about sewing, dressmaking and all things stitch related. And today you join me for a sew along that you guys asked for, which is very exciting. So I've never really used my community tab before, but I thought it was a good time to start. And you guys told me you wanted to see a sew along for my Elodie wrap dress, which I'm happy to provide. So today we'll be doing my Elodie wrap dress, which is from Closet Core Patterns, and I will be using this. So it's already cut because if you watch my week in sewing, you know I cut it last week and then basically decided to do a sew along. So this is the skirt piece, but here is the fabric I will be using. So this is a viscose America from the rag shop. It looks navy in some lights and black in others. I think it is black as a base. This one, it's really hard to tell. And the flowers are ever so slightly pink, so it's kind of floral. It's got a lovely, look at that flown drape. It's beautiful. I'm very excited to sew with it. It's very, very slippery, and I can tell that already. So I have put on a 70 weight needle, which is one of my sharpest ones, and it's really, really light. I think it's a 70, it might actually be a 60, I think. I'm using normal black Gutermann thread, and the view I am doing is I'm doing this view, but yeah, so this is the midi length here, so that is view B. There are 3 views, as you can see on the back of the pattern. So there's a maxi, a midi and a short one. So I want to have the grown on sleeve, and to be honest, the midi dress on me will probably be more maxi because of my height, which I don't mind, but I knew if I did the maxi one I'd probably have to cut half it off at the end. So we're gonna go for that. We're gonna see how, how it works. I think I'm gonna put the pockets on, but I can't decide, and honestly I'll have a look once I've kind of made it up, and I might just add the pockets afterwards, because pockets are fun, but also if it stops it looking kind of swishy and elegant, then I'm not that bothered. I can always open up a side seam, chuck some inseam pockets in, it's not a huge drama. Anyway, I have already cut it out, but I have put in the footage of me cutting it just for the sake of continuity, and I will be trying to sew most of this today because 2 reasons really. Firstly, I'm still on annual leave and I kind of just want to have a big sewing day. Anyone who's watched me for a while knows I do like to sew little bits here and there, but generally I'm a big fan of a sort of 6-hour sewing day where I just sit down, cup of tea, in my lovely sewing space, listening to something good, and I will just sew for hours, and that's my ideal for sewing really. It's hard, I think, sometimes to fit in little bits, kind of keep the enthusiasm for a project, I find anyway. So I'm going to smash through this today. I'm really excited, and also I've just not really been feeling it just generally this week, because I think work's getting very, very stressful, and I've got MA exams in 2 weeks time, and we've had to go to like hospital and dentist and all sorts of stuff this week, so it's not been as relaxing as it could have as a week off. So I sort of just want to dedicate today to sewing. So fingers crossed. It's not a difficult pattern, or it doesn't look difficult. That might be famous last words. So let's see how we get on. Because you guys asked for this, I will try and make sure I cover any of the techniques of the pattern in detail, because I know I can be a bit bad for just like skipping past things sometimes. So hopefully that's useful. And I've put some timestamps below of any key moments. So, if you guys are making this and you want to just go, oh, how do I do this bit? You will be able to find it. So without further ado, here is me cutting out the pattern, and then let's get sewing. So my first instinct, we get this lovely booklet, and over half of the instruction booklet is about laying out the fabric. There are pages and pages, literally 1, 2, 4, 5, 6 pages of cutting layouts. I don't know about you guys, I've never used a cutting layout in my life. 6 pages seems excessive. Like, this pattern is beautiful, but my god, you do not need 6 pages. Oh, that might just be me. I think it should be detachable or somewhere else, because I'm like, oh my, literally I looked at this and was like, oh, the instructions for this are massive, it's going to take me so much longer. It's not. The instructions start here. So this whole front bit is layouts, pattern piece inventory, fit details, which are useful, but honestly, like, yeah. And then there's a whole glossary, which I think is a nice touch because it does make the pattern more accessible to beginners. There's a pattern piece inventory, which is good. Although when I looked at it, it does, like, there's a list of the pattern pieces at the bottom, but I did get confused for a second. I was like, was I meant to cut out both bodices? Because they're listed both here. But then in the instructions, it says which views, which is really useful. Also, just a note, on the pattern pieces, it actually says, you know, view A, view B, and how many you cut, etc., which is really useful. But it says it in such minute writing that I did nearly miss it multiple times. So if you're watching this closet call, please make the writing bigger. Please, like a nice big cut 2 would be nice. And also just a nice big A or B on pieces or all views, just bigger. Because it is like, it's very aesthetically pleasing, but it's not particularly useful for the writing to be that small. Like, I know it really goes with the sort of brand of, like, you know, having the small italicized writing and things. It looks lovely, but it's minute and not really readable. So please consider making the writing bigger, just for accessibility reasons more than anything. But also just, it's more useful. This pattern pieces are a logistical document. They are there to help you do a certain thing. They're operational, which means that aesthetics to one side, they need to be clear. Which brings me to my next point. The instructions are lovely and bullet pointed, but if I show you guys, they kind of go like this. There's no clear numbering of the steps. Now I know obviously, like, as kind of a westernized person, I will read down the left and then down the right like you would in a newspaper, but it's still confusing because a bit of my brain wants to go across like that and they're not numbered. So yeah, again, please, beautiful, beautiful patterns, but could you have a little look into how you create your pattern instructions to make them, even, to be honest though, even if there was a line down the middle, it would make it clearer. I'm going off on one today about instructions because I think when you go to the trouble of providing a lovely big instruction booklet, which we love, great, you need to make sure it's clear for everybody, not just, you know, like, I think people need to put more emphasis onto that stage of pattern testing as well. Not only testing the pattern, but also testing the instructions and how it looks and how it's is it user friendly? And maybe even if you're providing the instructions to your testers in PDF form, for example, showing them a mock-up of what this will look like and asking for feedback as well. Anyway, I digress. On to, that's just a little note on the instructions. So we have to prepare our pattern pieces, transferring the marks across, which I did with scissors, it's fine. Ensure released pleats on front bodice are transferred to the wrong side of the fabric. Yep, that's fine. Again, I do snips and little marks, and that's not a problem. So then it wants me to stay stitch all seams as indicated below. So there's then a big chart. So what we are stay stitching first is our necklines on our front and back pieces, like on the bodice, the cross neckline on the wrap at the front, and also all along side seams and waist seams of back skirt pieces. So the back skirt is more cut on the bias than the front is, so that's fine. And then it also wants us to do it on the front. So, I mean, they could have just quite easily said, please stay stitch bodice and skirt, but you know, it's useful to see it all laid out here with some changes in measurements. So for example, on the front skirt, we're doing it at 1/2 inch on one side and 1/4 inch on the other. I'll be honest, I always do it at 1/4 inch because if it's 1/2 inch, it often shows, and generally it doesn't need to be that far in. So anyway, let us stay stitch now. stitched literally everything in sight. My god, it took so long. So now we are on to some construction. So here's my back piece. That is wrong side out, there we go. So it sits like that at the back. We're going to sew up the centre seam, but before we do that, we're going to quickly assemble the pleats in the back. So the pleats point away from the centre seam, which means they're going this way inside. So we have pinned these. So nice little pleats going back. They point away from my centre seam, and what we're going to do is basically baste along here at, I think it's 1/2 inch, just to keep them in place. And we'll do the same on the other side, and then we're going to stitch up the centre seam. So I'm just going to say, you know, that's basically preparing the back bodice. So let's stitch them along and get going. The back is done. Here it is. I need to give it an iron, but as always with this, I'm going to try and do some batch ironing. So this is it. It's such, the sleeves are so enormous, I keep not figuring out which way round things are. So that is our back with our nice little pleats at the bottom. So they need to be ironed in and pressed, but already pretty simple, pretty easy. Now we need to do the same thing on the front. In terms of the pleats, obviously not joining together. So let's stitch in the pleats on the front, and I'll show you, once I've pinned them in place, I'll show you just a close-up of what that looks like. And then, yeah, we are popping those pleats in and then assembling the bodice. So it's a quick make, actually. So then we'll be on to, just to give you a sort of directional overview, so attaching the bodice at the shoulders and then the underarm. And then we do the facings, which again, you know, nice and easy. Finish those edges on the facing as well. Back to our pleats. So it's the front bodice pleats. I'll show you the pattern piece. So on the back, they're just little notches that you mark in to do little, like they're little tuck pleats. Whereas on the front, yes, I did cut the original pattern piece. No, I don't regret it. We have these proper boxes. So we fold them together and then we sew up to there. I'm going to have a quick look at the instructions to just check which direction these go in, but I have a feeling the fold goes towards the wrap, because it normally does. So we'll look at that. And then, yeah, basically, I'm going to make sure this is marked on now before I do it. And we just fold together, sew up, and then press them to one side. Here we go. Here are my pleats pinned inside. So as you can see, it's hard with this fabric actually. Here we go. You can see I've got a pin at the top and then a pin at the length it should be. I prefer to do it this way because honestly, particularly with this sort of fabric, it doesn't mark well. So I prefer to just put a pin there and then I know. And I have sewn one for you. So there it is, looking cute. So what we will do is when I pull that out, we will press it to one side. I've still got the pin in the top actually. I'll take that out. We'll press it to the relevant side, which I believe is, yep, this way. And then from the outside, it's lovely and flat. And this then creates some bodice room in this size. Now I should have said, I've used the size 8, which is a 35-inch bust, a 28-inch waist and a 37-inch hip. I've chosen not to do any adjustments on it, because although, for example, you know, my waist is 2 inches smaller than this, my bust is 1 inch bigger, hips are about 1 inch smaller, it was the one I could fit into easiest. And like, for example, I know that there's like some of my bras, if I wear them, I can be like a 35.5, so it'll be fine. It'll be absolutely fine. But I've chosen to do it this way because it's quite a boxy garment and it's got a waist tie to pull it in. So that means A, if I need to, I can take some out of the side seams at the waist and create a slightly neater waist because of the current shape. It's a very, very easy seam to alter. But then also, because it is a wrap and a boxy fit, it's going to be easier for me to just cinch it and tie it with the belt that comes with it. So I'm not that fussed. The only thing I really care about here is making sure it doesn't gape. So that's the other reason I've gone for a slightly smaller bust size, because I think it'll hug better. And then, you know, if I need to let out anything in the seams or change anything, I can. It's not a huge drama. So let me sew up the rest of my pleats on both sides of the bodice, and then we will be able to construct our bodice. How quick is that? Have a bodice, which is very exciting, so I'll try it on for you guys. It desperately needs a press, but that's okay. So here we are. Now, I talked about sizing a minute ago. Oh, I've left a pin in there, hang on. There we go. I have sewn that up, haven't I? Yeah. So I'm obviously wearing a top and dungarees. I should have said, by the way, my outfit is completely me made today. So this is my Great British Sewing Bee shell top in a yellow floral viscose from Rainbow Fabrics Gilbin, and these are my Heydays made by Drax Mum, and I've linked the vlog below for these. Anyway, so here is my Elodie so far. It's quite tight across the back, but obviously trying to fit dungarees under it is not easy. So not bad actually. It's quite a nice fit. It's high-waisted, but that's okay because I've quite a high natural waist anyway. And there we are. So that's, I think, about where it sits. So yeah, I'm quite happy with that. Again, the pleats really need a press. I love the length of the sleeves. That's a really nice length for me. And yeah, so all in all, a very, very quick make to get to this point. So we now need to move on to our facings. And the facings are, I would say, probably the trickiest bit of this. Because then, realistically, you're just assembling the skirt and banging it onto the top, which is nice and easy. That's fine. So with the facings, what we first have to do is create kind of a loop. So we have these two pieces here. So we've got a little neck facing, which is a nice little U shape. And then we have these two front facings, and they go across the body, vice versa, like that. So we attach these to the neck piece to create a sort of U. And then obviously if we were to put that across us, it would mirror the wrap of the top. We're then going to finish the edges of our facings. I'm going to overlock the edges of mine just for the sake of ease. So, you know, they're just there and done. I don't have to think about it. Then the way we attach them is by butterflying out this top like so. So trying to get one as far as possible. Where is it? One long edge here, which looks bizarre, but if you see, if I pull through the sleeves, so we're grabbing each end of the wrap and pulling basically, and we get one long line with the sleeves hanging down the back like that. Looks like a very strange pair of trousers, and we attach the facing in one long line along here. So again, I'll show you when I've pinned it on, but yeah, so we then do that, understitch, all the usual things you do with the facing, and then we press the living daylights out of this. We also then hem the sleeves. So I'm actually, again, going to overlock these because my edge is a bit rough, and then just turn it under so that we get a nice crisp finish there. But yeah, I think this is definitely achievable today. So I'm going to take a quick break and grab a cup of tea, and then come back to do the facings. I'm also going to quickly tidy up because I've created quite a lot of pattern mess around me. But before we put our facings together, we need to interface them. So I have some lightweight interfacing kicking about somewhere. So in my tidy up, I will find that, and then we're going to have a little bit of a pressing session when I get back with my tea to press our pleats, to press out all of our seams, everything, just give it a good press, and we will interface our facings and our waistband. So this is the back and this is the front. So we need to, yeah, cut these out of interfacing, bit of an ironing session, so cup of tea first, and then we will get on with the facings. That's the facing on. So if I hold it up, there we go. Lovely, it's all the way along. I've snipped into it at the neckline. It doesn't tell you to, but it's a really tight curve there. So as I've had way too much experience with facings just not sitting properly, I'm just going to do that because I know it needs it. I now need to go through and understitch it so that stays down, because as you can see it's sort of popping up at the moment, but it's all overlocked all the way down the side, so it's lovely and neat. So I'm just going to go through, understitch it, and then we need to hem our sleeves and we'll be on to assembling the skirt. So, oh, it's kind of fun. Oh, my dungarees are falling off my arm. So really, really looking forward to being able to wear this. So I have sewn together my skirt. I had a quick break and now the skirt is together. So here it is, looking lovely. I miscut two of my skirt pieces so they're a little bit too long, but that's fine because they're evenly too long. So when it comes to hemming at the end, I'll hang it up and just make sure it's all the same length. But in terms of the waist, it is exactly as it should be, which is lovely. I need to give it a press. This is it on the inside. And I'll go up the seams in a minute and overlock them as well once I'm happy with it. So the next step is, pop that behind me. The next step is to do our ties. So you've got two. One is clipped, so I can show you what I'm about to do. I'm about to sew this up. So the raw kind of piece, you have one flat end and you have one sort of tie, like diamond tie end type thing. There we go. And what you do is you fold it in half, right side to right side, and then, you know, so you've got a nice point. We're going to sew it up the kind of raw edge with a 1 centimetre, so 3/8 of an inch seam allowance, and then we will turn it through and, you know, turn the point out, and we're going to do that with both ties. Good morning everyone. So it is Sunday. I'd say about 90% there. So I just need to do the last few bits. I need to assemble the waistband and then I need to attach it to the bodice and then attach that whole thing to the skirt and then we're there. So last night I left you with me turning out my ties. So here they are. Again, we're at a stage where I need to do a bit of batch ironing, but to be honest, I'm going to do it once the waistband's on and just do everything in one. But here are my lovely ties. They need a press down, but they're very, very long, which is good because I loathe waist ties that are too short. So those are done. And then now I have my waistband, which I need to connect. So we have 3 pieces. I've got, oh sorry, 4 pieces, ignore me. So we've got 2 longs and 2 shorts. I have just realised I've done something very stupid because of the ridiculous tiny, tiny writing on the pattern pieces. I didn't notice that I was meant to cut 4 of my front and 2 of the back. So I have cut 2 of the back, but I've also only cut 2 of the front. So what I'm actually meant to have is a front waistband and a back waistband, basically. Like as in a main waistband and a facing waistband. Now I do have a little bit of fabric left, I don't know how much, but I've got a little bit left, and because these are all interfaced I think I am just going to have to see what I can get really in terms of, because I just need the front facing, I just need 2 more of these. So I'm going to have to cut these out very quickly, and then what we're going to do is basically sew 2 rows, 2 waistbands. So very simple. We sew one with obviously interfacing and one theoretically without, and then we will put them together as we're sewing. So excuse me while I quickly cut out 2 more pieces. There's always something, isn't there? It's going too well. I now have 2 waistbands, and what I've done is, because we're going to be opening up the right hand side later on for an opening for the belt to go through, you're meant to baste it. However, what I've done, because I just find that sometimes basting stitches on my interfacing anyway don't go very well, so I've stitched it and then I've just unpicked the middle, and then I can expand it as much as I need to. It's fine. It just, so I remember this is the side I'll be opening, so make sure you do them both on the right side. Luckily, these waistbands can go either way up, so just make sure that, like, you know, your right hand side is like the same on, or you've picked the same side as it were on both, and then it'll be fine. So with that sort of in mind, we're now going to move on to the next section. So what we're going to do is we're going to attach the outer waistband, which is the interfaced one, the outer waistband into the bodice. So right sides together. We're going to attach that now. It's very, very clear that it says you need to make sure the seams are in line, because these will, the ends of this like waistband will overshoot by about, hopefully, about the seam allowance at the front of the bodice. So don't worry about that. Make sure you match up the actual seams with the side seams. That's much more important. So we're going to attach that one now. And then I think we attach this mostly non-interfaced one to the inside of the dress, so right side to wrong side, and then it'll flip down. I think that's how it works, but let's do the interfaced one first. So, as suspected, the waistband facing, which is the non-interface side, gets pinned to the inside of the garment, so right side of the facing to wrong side of the garment, and we end up with basically a facing each side for the waistband. We basted it in place, and now we've sewn it in place at 1.5 centimetres or 5/8 of an inch. So we now need to grade down this seam allowance and then press it down towards the skirt line, and then we'll be attaching the skirt. So in terms of grading, I'm not very good at grading. Like, I know you just have to make all the seams less, and obviously you're doing them at different heights so you've not got another bulk. So I'm just going to sit and do that. That's not very interesting, but I'm going to do it. And then I'm a bit concerned because my waistband doesn't kind of overshoot the end, but it does on this side, but it doesn't on the other side, so I might have to do a slightly interesting, but yeah, so otherwise we have a functioning dress bodice and we have a waistband. So let's do the grading first and see where we get to. We are so nearly there now, so let me first of all show you the skirt is attached. So as you can see, our waistband is still open, but if I pop it on over my pyjamas, there we go, lovely. Makes quite a good dressing gown, this as well. Lovely. So it's a little, again, I'm wearing an enormous jumper underneath this, so it's a little on the neat side, but that's okay, because yeah, without a jumper it will be a lot less. But there is, the waist sits directly, like the side seam is directly on my side, which is fab. So the next job we've got is to insert the ties. So if I show you, it's actually quite easy if I stand up. You can see our waistband is open. We've got 2 lines of stitching here. Please ignore that really messy bit. My bobbin went a bit strange earlier. So this fits rather neatly in this gap. We baste it down, fold that up, and then I think just fold that in on itself and then stitch it down like that so that our tie is enclosed in the waist of the dress. I'm nearly done, so I will actually be able to wear this today, which is very exciting. So let us get our ties in place, and then yeah, I think it's just the hem. I said I was going to hem the sleeves earlier and I forgot, so I'm going to do that shortly because I'm going to get the iron and the overlocker and everything out in a minute, so I'd rather again just get all my hems done in a one because I hate hemming things. It's awful. It's just so dull. Ugh. Right, anyway, before I go on a massive digression about how much I hate doing hems, let me put these in place. So it wouldn't be a so long without me making a couple of mistakes, and one of the mistakes I've made is I've turned my waistband straps too early, because earlier I made them and turned them out because, you know, that's what you do with straps. But apparently what you're actually meant to do is put them in wrong side out, like insert them and then push them through, or that's what it seems to be. The instructions for the waist ties I'm finding really unclear. Like it's really confusing. I mean, I'm really struggling with it actually. So it's all just it's really unclear, but I'll show you what I've done because frankly this is what I'm going to do. It works for me. It's not going to be as neat probably as the finish they want, but you know, is what it is. So I have threaded my tie into the waist. I've not sewn it yet. I'll show you guys. Yeah, I've threaded it in, and then I've just managed to fold it back and under and basically enclose the edge, and then I've done a fully enclosed waistband. This is all pinned, so now I need to go along very carefully. I think I'm going to do it from the outside and basically just stitch. I can't decide, I might have to do it from the inside to make sure it catches, but basically going along and stitching in the ditch of my waist seam to really get my waistband lovely and flat, and just all enclosed. I'm really not fussed if there's a tiny bit of mess around by the tie at this point. Like, yeah, I don't know if anyone else has done this pattern and they found the waist tie section really confusing. Can you let me know? It would just make me feel better. So my waistband has been sewn. I used a slightly heavier weight needle, and here we are. So I've slipped it on. As predicted, the midi length on me is pretty much maxi, but if I thread my strap through there, and there we go. The fit on the waist is actually really nice. I was worried because the waist is a couple of inches too big on the pattern measurements, it would be too neat, but it's actually not. It's a really nice fit, and I think that's because the waist sits, so my natural waist is about there and the waist on this sits a little higher, so that's something to bear in mind if you're curvier like me, if you've got a fuller bust than waist. But I am very happy with this. Like, look at that! I'm loving it. So things I need to do: I need to finish off the edges of the skirt, just fold them over, do a hem like that. I'm actually going to run them through the overlocker just because they're fraying a bit, and the same with the bottom. I'm going to neaten up that little gap between my two skirts, and I'm going to hem the sleeves, and then we're done. So it's basically all just hems. There is also a step which I don't think I really need to do because it seems quite strong, but you can reinforce the hole at the side with a bit of hand sewing. I may or may not do that, I can't decide. I tend to avoid anything that means I have to hand sew. But already, like, I'm so comfortable. I can see this dress being such a dream in the summer. So, let's get hemming, I'm so excited. my Elodie is finished. So with a lovely hem, which I've done with the circle skirt technique, shrinking it with an iron. And yeah, it's really comfortable. So if I thread that through back there, one of the things I was worried about, because often when I do wraps, like I normally choose to do them by the size of my bust, but then that often means I have to over wrap at my waist. So even though I would say the size 8, like actual size, isn't my measurements, it actually fits my measurements really, really well. And I'm very, very happy with the way it sits. I like the length of the ties, I can get them all the way around my waist. There's a nice flow to it, but it's not overly flowy. You can't really see the bottom, but I'll put some photos in as well. And I love the sleeves. I need to give them an iron because I forgot when I was just ironing right now to do the sleeves. But I'm really, really happy with the whole garment, really. It's definitely a win. It's one of my make 9 as well, which is exciting. But yeah, I'm going to give this, I need to top up the iron because it's being a little bit sticky. And just like, yeah, it's not got like enough steam to it at the moment. I'm going to give my sleeves and my hems a final really firm press and then take some photos of this lovely garment. All that remains for me to say is thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this so long. I hope it's been useful. Let me know in the comments below what you think. Do you like my fabric? Would you make this? Are you now going to make this if you weren't sure? Let me know. I love hearing this kind of stuff. And thank you if you voted for this so long in my community poll. I am going to start putting some more stuff in there about like what so longs I've got, so you guys can choose what videos you see, which is really exciting. So if you enjoyed this video, give it a like, you could share it, and even subscribe and click the notification bell if you want to hear every time I put out a new video. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you next time.